Welcome back. So we're now going to produce this report. And the most trickiest thing in this report is basically totaling the number of cars for sale. Okay, so that's the hardest thing to do, but the rest should be pretty straightforward. This database is covered in a 2016, and also we've covered databases similar, but once we've practiced a few of these papers, hopefully they should all seem pretty much the same. So now what we need to do first of all is the report needs to show the model, micro Z, and the cars that have not been sold. So that would be in a query. So we're going to go to create. I think all of the past papers and a 2016 paper will want you to create a query, then produce a report out of that query. So add, close. I'm going to close this. And then double click up here, so all the fields are highlighted, drag them down. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort everything in the query. So it shows where only the model is micro Z. So we go to model and we simply type in micro Z. Please watch your spelling because it won't second guess you and it won't correct anything for you. And the car that has not been sold. So we need to go to sold and just simply type no. That's simple. Right, now let's look for anything else we may need to do. So it says shows only the fields VIN, model, power, engine. So we want VIN, model, power, engine size. And then we want price, we want colour, we don't want discount, we want location, okay, and we don't want date sold, we don't want salesperson, but we want sold to show. Okay, so we can pretty much run this query now, but also what you can do, so it says sort the data into ascending order of VIN. You can do that here, but I'm just going to do that later in the report. So I'm going to run my query. And you can see, okay, that there are a total of 49 records, okay? Right, so now I'm going to save my query. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to save. And for quickness, I'm going to give it the heading here, so you can see that there's the heading. They will most likely always ask you to put a heading in your report, so it would be easier to just type it in as saved. Okay, now, going to close this so we can actually make our report. So I'm going to go to create again. I'm going to go to reports, report wizard. Then I'm going to select the query here and just going to double check the field. So we want VIN, we want model, power, engine size, price, colour, location and sold. If there's any fields you've accidentally put in, then just leave them here. It's fine. So go to next. I think this is okay. Now it says sort the data into ascending order of VIN. So there's ascending, and I'm just going to select the VIN. Then go to next, and always look at what orientation they want. So they want landscape for this one. So I selected landscape. And then the title, okay, we've got that in there. So now we're finished. Here we are. Right, you should be able to see that the report would need adjusting. So you can see here, look, the price field's completely cut off. Never, ever print a report like this. You won't get any marks, okay? So close the print preview. And to make it easier, just go to the layout view. And then we're going to readjust these. So you can see this is already too big. So I'm going to cut that down. And I'm going to cut this one down here. And the same with power. Look, the power is just way too big there. Far too big. And the same with engine size. Far too big. Right, I'm going to move this over because we're going to need to make space towards the end for the price. Okay? So move price over here. Sorry, it wasn't the price, it was the whether it was sold or not, wasn't it? There we go. Colour again. So Access isn't very clever at these sort of things. You do find you have to spend time sorting them out yourself, but don't spend a huge amount of time. Okay, just do what's necessary. Move that up a bit. There we go. Right, we're starting to get there now. So I'm going to move this over. Right, I'm going to pull, oops. There we go. Move it over. And move it over here. And that should do. That should be perfectly presentable. Let's check that. Yep, there we go. Okay, we can see everything. Right, so next thing. Now, we've done our query. We've shown our fields. It fits onto a single page. The orientation is landscape. The data is sorted in ascending order. Well, it should be. Yes, it is. Yep, there we go. A, B, C. You can see that. Now we need to calculate the total number of cars. So what we need to do is go back to home. Go down to design view. And this is where we need to start putting our formula in. Now the formulas always go into the footer. Okay, so report footer here at the bottom. Okay, right, if you do put it in the wrong place, like you can see I previously done in other reports, you just remove it. Okay, you just take it out and you just put it where it needs to go, but always stick to the footer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to extend this. Now I need to count, basically tell the total number of cars that are for sale. Now we cannot total up a number of no's because no's are simply the text, they're numbers. Okay, so we need to use a formula called equals count so it can count the number of no's. Okay, so we go to text box, add in our text box here. Okay, now here it says the label needs to say number of cars for sale. So I'm just going to type in here number of cars for sale. Okay, move this, you can see it overwrites that, and it will do. So if we move this in and then move this bit out, because we can't move them because they sort of come as a pair. Now we need to use our formula that you'd be familiar with in Excel, which is equals count. Open a bracket, place the square brackets in. Now the field we want it to count is the number of cars that have not been sold, so you can see how many are available. And we already know there's 49 records. Okay, so that should be a clue. So I'm going to type in sold because that's the field I want it to count, and close the brackets. Next thing, before we check it, make sure you put your name, candidate number at the right of the footer. Okay, so if it's at the right of the footer, this is in the way. So I'm just going to move this over. And I'll just move it over to the left. There we go. You can see they come as a pair. Because here, it says calculates the total number of cars for sale, but it doesn't say whether it's got to be on the left or the right. So we're going to put a name and centre number at the right of the footer. So what you do for this is you get a text label here. Don't use the text box because you can see they come in pairs. And I'm just going to draw my text label here. I'm going to type in name, candidate. Obviously, you put your name, your actual candidate number, and centre number. And you actually put the centre number as well. Don't just do what I'm doing because this is just an example. Right, now I'm going to check that it's right. So I'm going to go to view, check my report. Okay, you can see that it should be on one page, shouldn't be on two. So scroll way down to the bottom. There we are. Page 1 of 1. Name, candidate number, centre number, and total number of the cars for sale of 49 because it counted how many no's. Like I said, for this one, you don't use equal sum for that reason. Okay, right, so let's see the next task, and I may need to go onto another video for this. Right, it's asking for another report that is a little more complicated. Okay, so this is obviously going to take longer than 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is run this in the next video. So click on part 4 for step 35.